You have a morning ritual. Maybe it's a specific coffee, a song, a physical gesture before you begin your day. And at some point, without planning it, that ritual started working. You felt calmer, more focused, more ready. That was not willpower. That was your nervous system firing an anchor. Now let's talk about a real problem. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Some of you are already being anchored every single day by your environment, by other people, by sounds you do not consciously register. Your cortisol spikes the moment you hear a specific notification tone. Your chest tightens when you see a particular name on your screen. Your focus collapses the moment you enter a room associated with distraction, not because you lack discipline, but because your brain has been wired by repetition, by emotion, by accident to respond to stimuli before your rational mind can intervene. Today, we'll learn to reverse that. I'm Dr. Elena Chirikhina, lifestyle medicine advocate. This channel is dedicated to evidence-based strategies for busy adults who want to prevent disease, stay cognitively sharp, and age with intention. If you have already watched our lecture on the auditory diet, this lecture is a direct continuation. The science of anchoring explains precisely why sounds and environment condition you so powerfully. And if you followed our series on the crab effect and social resistance, you already understand that your internal states are constantly disrupted by external conditioning. Today, you learn to install your own. In the next 12 minutes, we will cover why your brain requires anchors to function under load, the Pavlov mechanism that makes this possible, the 4 modalities of anchoring: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, how to distinguish positive from negative anchors, and deploy each strategically, the exact timing and repetition protocol for permanent installation, and the one clinical test that tells you whether your anchor is actually working. Stay with me. Your prefrontal cortex, your executive brain, can hold between 4 and 7 pieces of information simultaneously. That is it. Under chronic stress, sleep deprivation, or metabolic load, that number drops to 2 or 3. The day demands far more. Your nervous system solved this problem long before modern psychology named it. It uses a compression algorithm. It links a state calm, focused, energized, safe to a sensory cue, a sound, an image, a physical gesture. That instead of reconstructing that state from scratch each time you need it, you can fire a single stimulus and recover the full emotional, physiological package within seconds. This is not a wellness trend. This is your brain efficiency architecture. The technical mechanism is called a conditioned stimulus response, and most people know it through one name: Pavlov. Ivan Pavlov was a Russian physiologist studying digestion, not behavior. In 1897, he observed that dogs salivate on response to food, an unconditioned response, hardwired, automatic. He began ringing a bell every time he delivered food. Over repeated, precisely timed pairings, the dogs began salivating at the bell alone. No food, just the bell. This is classical conditioning. A neutral stimulus, the bell, acquires the power to trigger biological response through consistent pairing at moments of physiological activation. Your brain operates on exactly the same mechanism. Every time you hear a specific sound before training, your body begins releasing norepinephrine before you touch a single weight. Every time you apply a particular scent before focused work, your cortisol regulation shifts. Every time you press thumb and index finger together at the moment of joint peak confidence, you are installing retrieval key for this state. That installation process is anchoring. and it is available to you by design right now. There are 5 sensory modalities through which anchors can be set. We will focus on the 4 with the strongest clinical application. Visual anchors work through environmental cueing, a specific color in your workspace, an image you see before a focused work block, the configuration of light in your room you associate with safety. The visual cortex encodes these as state predictors. Change the hue intentionally and you can shift the predicted state. Auditory anchors are among the most powerful available to you. Sound bypasses the prefrontal cortex and travels through the auditory thalamus directly to the amygdala, your threat and emotion processing center. This is why a specific song can return you to an exact emotional moment from 20 years ago in just under 3 seconds. If you watched the Auditory Dive lecture, you already had the neurological foundation for this. Kinesthetic anchors involve touch and physical sensation, a specific hand position, a body posture, the deliberate pressure of a finger to the thumb at the chosen moment. This includes what practitioners sometimes call a release anchor, a physical action performed at the precise moment of emotional openness, which can later be used to reaccess that state of calm and clarity. This is the most portable anchor modality. Your body is always with you. Olfactory anchors are the oldest in your nervous system. The olfactory bulb has a direct pathway to both the hippocampus and the amygdala. Unlike every other sense, scent bypass the thalamic relay entirely. A single exposure to a specific scent during a high-intensity positive state can create a retrieval key that persists for decades. This is not metaphor. This is your limbic architecture doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. Before you install your anchor, you must answer one question with precision. What state do I need, and when exactly do I need it? Not I want to feel better. That's not a state. That is a preference. A state has a physiology. Focus has a specific breathing pattern and postural signature. Confidence has a different one. Calm under pressure has a different one. Your body already knows these distinctions, even when your mind does not. I want you to do this now. Identify 3 states you regularly need but struggle to access on demand. For most of you, busy professionals, midlife adults carrying cognitive and metabolic load, those states are deep focus, calm under pressure, and physical readiness. Write those 3 down because what we are building for the rest of this lecture is a specific, testable protocol for each one. Here is a distinction most people miss entirely. Anchors are not inherently positive. They are simply learned associations, installed through the same mechanism regardless of the emotional content. If you have negative anchors operating right now, the sound of a specific notification tone that triggers a cortisol spike within milliseconds, a person name on your screen, and the chest contraction that follows before you have read a single word. The smell of a clinical environment that returns you to a moment of fear. These are not weaknesses. They are your nervous system being competent. Learn the association under emotional intensity, and it fires it efficiently. The critical difference: positive anchors are installed intentionally at peak state with a sensory trigger you control. Negative anchors are installed by accident at moment of distress by stimuli you did not choose. Deploy positive anchors before performance demands, before a presentation, before a difficult conversation, before training, before any moment where you need a specific internal resource available immediately. Negative anchors, do not suppress them, collapse them. We come to that in the strategy section. A non-negotiable rule: you can only install a positive anchor during genuine peak state, not a moderate state, a real 8, 9, or 10. The neurological encoding depth depends entirely on the emotional intensity at the moment of installation. Pavlov's original conditioning required between 5 and 30 pairings to produce a reliable condition response under controlled conditions. In human neurology, the timeline is more complex because our cortex layers interpretation and meaning into sensory input in ways that animal models do not capture. Filippo a 2010 UCL study on habits automaticity places the threshold on an average of 66 days, with a range of 18 to 254 depending on the complexity, on the behavior and individual neuroplasticity differences. But here is what the anchoring literature actually tells us. For kinesthetic or auditory anchor installed at genuine peak state, you need a minimum of 7 clean repetitions at high emotional intensity, with the same precise stimulus each time. 7, not 1, not 3. For maintenance, fire the anchor once per day for 21 consecutive days. After day 21, the association is stable enough to persist with weekly reinforcements only. Where almost everyone fails in the quality of the state during installation, they try to set an anchor when they feel good enough. The neurology does not encode deeply from a 6 out of 10 state. You need a real 8. You need a deliberately reconstruct or recall a peak experience before each installation repetition. If you are anchoring a focus state, recall your single most productive session in the last year. Feel that in your body first. Then, and only then, fire the anchor. How do you know if your anchor is working? Not by how you feel immediately after installation. That is influenced by expectation and performance. You test it under neutral conditions. 3 days after your final installation repetition, enter a completely neutral emotional state. No stressed, not excited. Sit quietly for 2 minutes, then fire the anchor. Measure what happens in your body within 15 seconds. Not your interpretation, your physiology. Does your breathing rate change? Does your posture shift automatically? Does attention sharpen? Some of you will fire your anchor and feel nothing. That does not mean anchoring does not work. It means one of 3 things. The state during installation was not intense enough. The stimulus was inconsistent. You altered the gesture or changed the sound between sessions. Or you did not reach 7 clean repetitions. The clinical framework we use is modified SUDS scale, subjective units of state. Before firing, rate your target state 0 to 10. After firing, rate again. A 2-point or greater shift within 15 seconds indicate a functional anchor. Less than 2 points, rebuild from peak state. Precise stimulus, 7 repetitions, test again. Now build your actual protocol. Strategy 1. Anchor stacking. Never rely on a single modality alone. Stack a kinesthetic anchor with an auditory anchor and optionally a visual anchor. When 2 or 3 modalities fire simultaneously, the neurological response is significantly more robust. A thumb finger press combined with 8 seconds of specific instrumental track is more powerful than either alone. Strategy 2. State-specific modality matching. For deep focus, auditory anchor. A track you play only during concentrated work, nothing else ever. The exclusivity of the pairing is essential. For calm under pressure, kinesthetic anchor. A precise hand position or brief gesture combination that can be deployed silently in any environment. For physical readiness, olfactory anchor. peppermint oil applied to the wrist before training sessions only, nowhere else. Strategy 3. Anchor collapse. For negative anchors, you want to neutralize. Fire the negative anchor to a low-level intensity. Immediately fire a strong, well-established positive anchor. Hold both simultaneously for 5 seconds. Release both. Repeat 3 times per session. Over 5 to 7 sessions, the negative anchor's emotional charge decreases through competitive reconsolidation. Your brain overrides the prediction with new evidence. This is not suppression. This is neuroscience working for you. Strategy 4. Environmental anchoring design. Audit your environment for unintentional anchors. Remove passive, unfocused state cues from your performance spaces. Never eat in your workspace. Never watch passive content in the room where you do deep work. Design every environment you enter to prime the state that space requires. Your environment is conditioning you right now. The only question is whether you design that conditioning or let it happen by default. Protocol precisely. Week 1. Identify your 3 target states. Design 1 anchor per state. Start across at least 2 modalities. Install once daily a genuine peak state, 7 repetitions minimum. Weeks 2 and 3. Fire each anchor once daily in a neutral state. Apply the SUDS test. Adjust if the response is less than 2 points. Day 21 forward, weekly reinforcement. Monthly recalibration when life conditioning shift significantly. This is not complicated, but it requires precision. The difference between an anchor that works and the one that does not is always the quality of the state at installation and consistency of the stimulus, nothing else. And if you want to understand exactly why your sound environment has been conditioning your neurological states without your awareness, the auditory diet lecture is the right next step. It is linked in the description, and it will change how you design your daily acoustic environment permanently. I'm Dr. Elena Chirikhina, evidence-based lifestyle medicine for the life you are actually living. I will see you in my next lecture.